My name is Pauline Latchem, and I'm profoundly deaf, and I'm a sign language user. I wasn't born deaf, I was born hearing, and I became deaf at the age of 11. It meant that initially I had language, I had speech, I read, I had the skills of reading and writing. I was lucky in many ways, but I did become deaf. I went to school, but I wasn't allowed to use sign language. It was an oral school. I had to do that. It was easy for me because I could speak and I could read, but I couldn't lip read. So I grew up and I became quite depressed through, when I was 20 or 30, I became more and more depressed, and I thought, where did I fit into this world? Which world did I fit in? Into the deaf world? To signing? But I didn't understand that. Did I fit into the hearing world? I was stuck in the middle. I didn't know where I was. I felt lonely and isolated. I tried to kill myself twice. I didn't want to live. I felt I didn't want to be in this world. I felt that it was my fault if I couldn't succeed in doing things. So it was my fault. Everything was up and down. It was linked to Simone was talking about the society, the medical model, the social model. I felt really there was nothing for me to look forward to. But now I'm 61 and I look back on my time, 40 years, wow, and I'm still here. And I'm still enjoying being here, and it's fantastic. And I think at that time though, it was so painful and emotional time, very difficult time for me. And the thing that actually changed me was that a disability organisation in Shropshire, the Shropshire Disability Group, I met blind, wheelchair users, all different types of disabilities. And they taught me, about lots of models of disability, and I was wowed, the social disability, and I wasn't used to that. But the world was sort of destroyed for me. But it was a big change in my mindset. I felt a little angry, but I felt quite assertive as well. I wanted to actually kill myself. The anger was very powerful. I just wanted to sort of was a bit destructive, really. But I used that in a creative way. I learned how to channel my anger in a creative way. I changed that doing campaigning, being involved in campaigns for access, for deaf people, for disabled people, wheelchair users, all disabled people, and also people with learning disabilities, for everybody's rights, and having those people having space in the world. And I wanted to find a way how to respect everybody and everybody to respect each other and be involved. I didn't want deaf people to be, sort of marginalised or sidestepped or anything like that. So I learnt I couldn't learn a lot of things because I couldn't hear anything. And so until I had some communication support, and wow, that did something for me. And then it's not like a one-off thing. It's not like a ramp that you can put in or level floor access or anything like that. It's not like that. Deafness isn't like that for the access. You need communication support over and over again for different things. So you need a lot of money for that. And the government is actually saying, well, they're trying to take a sidestep. And so we have to campaign for access and more money. So if I go back to public speaking, and I started when I was about 20, that was about 25 years ago, and at that time there was a British Deaf Association Congress at that time, and at that time my sign language wasn't that good, really. I wasn't a fluent sign language user, and I wasn't confident. Actually, I was very nervous, but I felt passionate because some of the attitudes of some of the deaf people were, oh, I'm better than others, I'm better than other disabled people, oh, I can walk, oh, we're not like that, our language is different, oh, we're not disabled. But the thing is, I didn't feel like that. It's the same, everybody is the same, you can't separate. So I wanted to challenge that, and I had to be brave and stand up in front of people who are grassroots sign language users, and then challenge their thinking. It was very nerve-wracking, and I mean, I was scared that they would sort of attack me in a sense by doing that, but they listened, so that made me quite aware and surprised. Oh, and it provoked thoughts like, oh, I didn't think of that. So it sort of changed everything, and then that was the starting of the campaigning, getting involved in campaigns to improve access to services, set up interpreting service, and then work with people with learning disability who are deaf and visually impaired. I've worked with them for a long time. It's not easy at all, but my inside is all flabbergasted and scared and everything, and my feet are shaking and I'm sweaty, and it's really difficult. It's quite nerve-wracking. But the more I did this, the more and more I did this, I became that all of those feelings sort of disappeared. I became more calm. It took time. So the more I did this in front of small audiences like this and big audiences, thousands of people, big conferences, for example, but I got very positive feedback. I mean, the access for deaf, for example, you need this very high quality of sign language interpreter support to actually work with the interpreter and to make sure they represent my voice and my emotions, so they can pick up on all of these things and they can translate my voice clearly and my message clearly. Or I don't want them to actually change any of those meanings, because that would give me less confidence. So it's about my rights, it's about the process of that involvement, working with interpreters to establish that. The thing is, of course, it costs money. The thing is, getting interpreters, I mean, the thing is, I can't actually go into a conference on my own. I have to, prior to that, I have to plan the interpreters. I have to argue about getting the access, setting up the payments, who's responsible for that. It's actually quite overwhelming and tiring. It's about arguing for this access all the time. And now, after all this time, I have been quite patient and I have become more calmer in myself. I have actually asked for what I've wanted. Previously, I felt like I was in a roller coaster. I was being pushed and quite worn out, like a burnout. I felt quite ill, actually. Now I've learned how to look after myself. Sometimes I need just to pull the handbrake up, just to relax, and I need to just be a bit more calm. I can't be responsible for everybody. We need more young people too, who are coming up now, to be more confident, to take over and be involved, take part of that public speaking for their future, your futures. I'm getting older now. I mean, maybe, further along in my life, I'm going to even take a further step back, but we still need the access. We still need to campaign and fight for this. We need to make people aware of the access issues and break down those attitudes. So we need to work. It was Yolanda and Yasmina were talking about presentations about what disabled women want, and I accept we want to feel valued. We want to feel confident, to go out, to feel relief. And the way you explained it was just so amazing. It matches me in my work now. I'm a counsellor and I work with deaf people, regularly with deaf people, with additional people who have disabilities, who may be deaf, deaf-blind, or other disabilities, who have no confidence. They feel worthless. They feel unappreciated, and I work with them and I counsel them to build up their confidence, to feel accepted and feel something some strength within them. I don't, not to feel pressured or have to follow what other people want, but it's about being more confident and more about themselves. And you were talking about, that lady talked about religion. You're right, some people do have, they use religion for that space, and it's true, the spirituality that's within. It's not about the outside influences, it's actually about the inside influences and how we take the views of others and we incorporate that within us. But it's important to encourage that confidence, and women and men as well, of course, don't forget the men, to feel accepted and feel okay about themselves. Not for them to change, but it's about how to respect yourself and respect others in front of us as well, and how we match those needs of people around us. And we talked about the public speaking. I think that when I feel really nervous, when I'm feeling the most passionate, that's when I feel the most nervous. But that's when I feel that we need to actually, then that's the time that we should be using our voices and speaking out. That is the time when we should bring this out and bring your passion out, and then to give that information to others, to give them the confidence as well for their lives, because I want to see more and more of that, and people being involved and more assertive and sharing their learning with others, to stand up in an audience and say and feel confident about themselves. And I mean, it's easy for me to, stand up on the stage. I can do that physically, but when it comes to communication, and I need interpreters for that support and the access. Recently, Elga was asking about going to a Woman of the World WOW festival in South Bank. Anyway, to speak there, I would have been nervous about that. But I said, okay then, I will do it. I was asked to do that. But it was so fantastic. It was just, the access was amazing. It was a fantastic woman who was managing the interpreters, had brought in 5 interpreters for this day. 2 were in front, who were watching me, and 2 were on the stage, who were for the disabled and deaf people in the audience, and we had the palantypists who were typing for the screen, and I had a small one in front of me, so I could watch the interpreters at the same time. And the chair of the panel was sitting aside. Her name was Laura, and she asked me prior to that, what should we do to make sure that you're fully involved in this festival? So I thought about that, and then I felt quite calm, because she had asked me that everything was there. We had the interpreters in front of me on the stage, I had the palantypists, I had the audience, everything seemed to fall into place. And we had a light technician who had asked me about the lights, to check that everything was fine, that I wasn't blinded by, I wouldn't be blinded by these lights, so they would be the appropriate lighting. It was just an amazing, it was a wow experience really. The thing is, if it's not done every time, but if it's done that way correctly, it would make everybody's experience and my experience much, much better. And I wouldn't be so nervous, which I wasn't that day. And I really did feel wow. So I'd like to thank Elga so much for providing and making me feel that way. It was a really amazing experience. So hopefully next year some of you will be involved as well in the WOW Festival, and maybe doing a talk and giving a speech to them as well. Just show people what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and it helps to change their perception, and that will happen. So there's so much to offer, really. Go out there and do it. So thank you very much for listening.
It's lovely.
You say that you are working as a consultant.
As a what?
Yes. In some organization or?
Freelance. I work for myself. Yeah, I have a private practice here in London. It's quite small, and some commissions, like short. I get some commissions, but I work with deaf people only, either individually or couple work. Mm-hmm. Thank you. But really, there are very few counsellors that are deaf nationally. I think that there's about 25 in total, and that's across the UK. So it's very hard for deaf people to actually access counselling. Usually they're offered a hearing counsellor with an interpreter, but it's very difficult to actually have that space to explain. First of all, they have to explain what the difference is. They have to educate them about deafness, and it doesn't really work. It eats into their time. And also, it's very emotional, to having to teach deaf awareness is very difficult. Mm-hmm.
One more question.
Yeah, I just wanted, I have a question because I was very impressed with hearing you explain about the access needs. But in mental health, and I'm a mental health issue myself, I'm very aware the deaf community are quite a large proportion of that community. So what you've just told us is really shocking to me, and I know that I've been complaints at the wards here about there not being enough access for deaf people, but also they say that there's only one unit, and is that correct in the whole country?
Yeah, nationally, they have the National Deaf Services, and there's one based in London. It's called Springfield Hospital. The other one is in Birmingham, Queen Elizabeth Hospital there, and then in Bury, the Alfred Hospital. And also Rampton has one small ward that's a deaf ward. So yeah, not very much nationally. So it means in terms of London, it's covering a very wide area. So there's lots of boroughs that have no access at all. So people have to travel a long way for services. If they have to stay in hospital, they're obviously, quite often far away from their family. So, normally it would be nice to be in a hospital near, in a mainstream, but there really isn't the access there. It's certainly not the access to communication. And so that's not rehab really, so it doesn't help them to improve their health or get better. So, but thank you for your question.